April is the month of the military child, an opportunity to recognize military children for their resilient spirits, personal sacrifices, strong character and courage, and whereas military children are part of the strength of our nation, as they support and encourage their service members with a fierce patriotic spirit, and whereas these children are a source of pride for the great state of Idaho and to us all, and it is only fitting that we take time to recognize their contributions. And whereas military children continue to make significant contributions to family, community, and their nation as they endure prolonged and repeated absences of one or both parents. And whereas a month-long salute will recognize that military children serve too, and citizens of Idaho will be afforded the opportunity to don the colored purple every Friday of April in support of these children. Now, therefore, I, Daniel Johnson, Mayor of the City of Lewiston, do hereby proclaim the month of April as Month of the Military Child in the City of Lewiston, and encouraging all citizens to show support for the children of military families by recognizing their sacrifices, resilience, and courage, and to thank the parents who serve to protect our freedoms. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and seal of the City of Lewiston, Idaho, to be affixed here to this first day of April 2024, Daniel G. Johnson, Mayor, Lewiston, Idaho. Thank you. And you'll accept
that?
Huh?
Yeah, I will. We have other kids we have to pick up, but that's okay. Do you want a picture with them really quick, if that's okay? Can we do that?
We got lots of film.
Yeah, you're welcome. And I'll send it to
And you're
Cynthia.
going to send it? Oh,
Yeah, and I can send it, and she'll send it to you, I'm sure, but. That's the video, sorry, guys. All right, perfect. Thank you very much, guys.
Thank you for coming.
Yeah,
Thanks
thank
for
you.
coming, kids.
Okay.
Is there someone here for the house who was going to accept that one? Linda's going to accept it. Okay. Proclamation, City of Lewiston, Idaho, whereas fair and equitable housing, access to housing is a fundamental human right, essential for the well-being and dignity of all individuals and families, and whereas April marks an opportune time to reaffirm our commitment to fostering inclusive communities and combating discrimination in housing, and whereas the principles of fair housing promote diversity, equity, and opportunity, enriching the fabric of our neighborhoods and society as a whole, and whereas, despite progress, disparities and barriers in housing persist, necessitating ongoing efforts to eliminate discrimination based on race, color, national origin, religion, sex, familial status, disability, and other protected characteristics. Now, therefore, I, Dan Johnson, Mayor of the City of Lewiston, proclaim April 2024 as Fair Housing Month. Let us seize this month as a catalyst for education, awareness, and action to advance fair housing principles and practices. I call upon all citizens, government agencies, businesses, organizations, and community leaders to redouble our commitment to fair housing and work collaboratively to ensure that every individual and family has access to housing free from discrimination and prejudice. Together, let us strive to build inclusive communities where everyone can thrive, regardless of their background or circumstance. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and seal of the City of Lewiston, Idaho, to be affixed here to this first day of April 2024, Daniel G. Johnson, Mayor, Lewiston, Idaho. And Melinda's going to accept this, so thank you, Melinda.
Yeah.
Do you want to say anything?
I don't.
You don't? Okay.
Thank you.
I asked you. And while we're standing here, we had another guest sneak in the back. Miss Carolyn Eads is there, and she always brings us special treats. So thank you for your attendance and caring for us. Yeah, thank you. Which, if you can't see, that means snacks back there, so, which I'll get to in a bit. Thank you, Carolyn. Next up, citizen comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to address the council on agenda items or other items they wish to bring to the attention of the council. Citizens are encouraged to discuss operational issues in advance with the mayor. In consideration of others wishing to speak, please limit your remarks to 3 minutes. Do we have citizen comments today? Anyone? Yes. Please state your name and city of residence, and there's a microphone in the ceiling above you, so if you speak loudly and clearly, we'll hear what you have to say.
Awesome. Well, my name is Cass McLaughlin. I am a City of Lewiston resident. I'm also a Communications Watch Supervisor for the City of Lewiston Police Department Dispatch Center. And I am here today to respectfully share mine and my fellow dispatchers' feelings against the proposed combined call center. A lot of it, you know, is going to be very easy financially. It's going to be a huge financial cost. We are aware of that as well. Both the new building or building a building, putting in all of the equipment, the time and the cost, the planning that's going to go into it is going to be phenomenal. You've got different agencies with different policies, different procedures, and it would just take a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of cost to the time that would go into that for the employees to be able to decide what kind of combined policies and procedures we can come up with. It's very likely we're gonna end up with having city attorneys having to be brought into it to make sure everything is going to be exactly what it should be. We have concerns about that. We have concerns about the extra personnel that would have to be hired. Right now, dispatchers do all of the paperwork. We process things, we process custodies. We have deadlines that we are getting all of our paperwork to prosecutors and to the courthouse by the next morning. That's happening overnight as the officers are bringing it in. That you would have to house new ones now because the dispatch center would not be able to be doing that paperwork, especially when you're looking at warrants, which have to be by law housed where the sheriff is. So those would not be allowed to be in a dispatch center. So again, you're looking at extra personnel for that. Our biggest concern, obviously, is gonna be our quality of what we're able to give to our responders. We are a part of the Lewiston Police Department. They are our family. We are connected to the officers, to the chief, to our detectives, to our admin, to our IT, all housed in that same building. We are the protectors of everybody in that building. We look out for them specifically. We are looking to make sure everything's taken care of. We are intimately aware of what's happening with our officers and with our firefighters and with our medics because we are there for every call. We read every report. We're able to do the research. We are doing a lot of the sleuthing for our officers because, again, we are intimately involved in their cases with them. This is a connection we're afraid that we would lose were we not housed in the same place. I have spoken with all the dispatchers at Lewiston Police Department, and so for them, I have been empowered to let you know that at least 50% of us were to go to a combined center would leave the profession. Unfortunately, we love our department. We love being a part of it. We are, for the first time ever in Idaho, considered first responders as dispatchers. We are housed with our first responders. This was something we fought hard for, and it means a lot to us. They are part of our family, and even though protecting our community is huge, talking to our community is huge, officer safety is paramount. It is something that is so important now more than ever in our history as we're watching officers get gunned down on a regular basis. And a lot of it happens because they don't know what they're walking into. We help them. We can let them know what they're walking into. I can know that this person is a danger because I dealt with them last week with a different officer. This officer doesn't know about this. We can let them know what they're going into. So it's very important to us that as you make decisions, as you are considering, please consider, this is our family. We consider ourselves a part of the Lewiston Police Department. We are members of it. We are protectors of it. And it is where we really would like to stay. And I hope you keep that in mind. I thank you very much for your time.
Kathy, thank you. We normally don't ask questions, but I want to ask you a quick question.
Absolutely.
If I may. And it's not to put you on the spot. You don't have to answer if you don't want to.
Okay.
But Mission Critical Partners worked for at least a couple of years putting together a plan for consolidation. And if you have not had a chance to read that plan, I would maybe just as a favor ask you to do that and others, because there may be some other things in that plan that would be beneficial for the council to get feedback on. There might be some good things in there too.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't want to throw the whole thing out, but I've read the plan and some of it makes sense to me. Others I have questions on it, but hearing from you directly is very important to me. But I just want to make sure that we're giving it a very fair assessment and answering any of the questions in there and
Okay.
giving credit where credit's due on some of that also. So,
Absolutely, no, I'd be very interested in reading through that, absolutely.
Thank
I
you.
appreciate that suggestion.
Counselor, does anybody have a quick question while we have Kathy standing there? We don't know how to do this, but. And I should mention, Counselor Floresman, I think, is listening online. You can probably see better than I can. But we do have a full council here today.
Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. Is there further citizen comments? Please. Welcome. Greetings.
Greetings, thank you so much for taking the time to listen to me today. My name is Kendall Prince. I am the newest dispatcher for the communications center at the police department. I've been working there for 6 months now, and I just wanted to bring the perspective of a brand new person as the newest fully trained dispatcher. 6 months ago, I was in the job market, and I had the choice between working for LPD or working for Whitcomb, which is 30 minutes up the road. And they are a consolidated dispatch center like what we are considering doing. And when given the choice between those two employment opportunities, I chose LPD specifically for the reason that it was in-house and that you would be able to have that daily interaction with the officers to increase that team cohesion and have that face to the name instead of just a faceless radio relationship, which can break down team cohesion and lower the quality of overall services given on both sides of the system. So I just wanted to say that I chose LPD because of its relationship as a family and as its in-house agency over Whitcomb for this exact reason. So I just wanted to give my perspective as a new person or someone that was considering multiple different employment opportunities. I am concerned that this consolidation may hurt our recruitment and that people may choose to commute to a different location if it's going to be a very similar system to what they have in Whitcomb, 30 minutes up the road. So I just wanted to express that. Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.
Further citizen comments? Anyone? Okay, thank you. We'll move on to Roman number 4, presentations. Item A, proclamation, we did that. D, so I guess I got ahead of myself. Oh, that's good. All righty. Item 5, active agenda, resolution 2024-12. Item A, considering declaring ML Albright & Sons Incorporated as the only reasonably available vendor for the 12th Street Stormwater and 88 pedestrian ramp Public Works construction project in accordance with Idaho Code 67-2808, 2A, Roman numeral 8. This is an action item, and we have our city engineer with us today, Luke Antonich. Luke, welcome. And if you'd please introduce yourself for the record, and you know where the microphone is. Thank you.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor, Council. My name is Luke Antonich. I'm the city engineer for the city of Lewiston, and I am here to talk to you today about Resolution 2024-12. The resolution designates ML Albright and Sons as the sole source contractor for the installation of a new stormwater line underneath 12th Street, alongside where the new courthouse is going, just south of Main Street. That also includes the construction of an ADA compliant pedestrian ramp just south of the courthouse on F Street. And the project area falls within the construction site boundaries of the current courthouse. The reason for this stormwater replacement at this time is it is currently undersized and doesn't meet our standards, and the courthouse will be removing the pavement above the current storm drain, and so it's an opportune time to replace the storm line since the courthouse will be bearing the costs of all of the pavement removal and replacement. We'll just have to replace the storm drain itself. There's limited space on this construction site. The coordination that needs to be done within the site would be very tight for any other contractor to come into. ML Albright's is the groundworks contractor for the courthouse, so they're already on site and they're already coordinating with the general contractor and have a workflow established. And inserting a new contractor into that dynamic would be pretty cumbersome for their project as well as for the city, and we would bear the cost of that. The project is funded from the Stormwater Capital Fiscal Year 24 project budget, as well as the capital transportation budget. And for that reason, the staff recommends that the City Council per Resolution 2412, declare ML Albright as the sole source for the 12th Street Stormwater and ADA pedestrian ramp public works construction project. And with that, I will stand for any questions.
Thank you, Luke. Councilors, Councilor Spickmeyer.
Thank you, Mayor. So Luke, in this, way I understand it, it's more of an opportunity issue with them being there. And so with them being there, so we don't have to pay mobilization costs, which are normally added to a construction job?
So there's if you're looking at the quote, they include a profit overhead and mobilization line item. That item is reduced because they are already on site. But we're not paying nothing, we're just paying less than we would have.
Gotcha.
Councilor Schroeder.
I'd like to make a motion.
Motion's in order.
I move to approve Resolution 2024-12.
Second.
Been moved by Councilor Schroeder, seconded by Spickmeyer. So I need to make sure, pardon me, Councilor Forsman, can you hear us? It needs to be tuned in. I see.
Yeah, she was took down. She was there.
Just send me a text that it dropped off. Councilor Forsman, are you with us?
Yep, sorry, I'm back.
Okay, there was a motion to approve Resolution 2024-12 made by Councilor Schroeder, seconded by Councilor Spickmeyer. Is there further discussion? Clerk Brockie?
Council President Kleberg?
Aye.
Councilor Lidkey?
Aye.
Councilor Spickmeyer?
Aye.
Councilor Schroeder? Aye. Councilor Klein?
Aye.
Councilor Forsman?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Luke. Next up, we have Roman numeral 5B, Intelligent Transportation Software Package from the NASPO Cooperative Contract, Carasoft and SHI. Considering accepting the request to utilize the state of Idaho's addendums to the NASPO's Value Point contracts, number AR2488 and AR2472, for the purchase of an intelligent transportation software package from SHI and Carasoft in the amount of $369,907.10. This is an action item, and we have our transit manager, Ms. Suzanne Senior, with us. Suzanne, welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, councilors. I'm Suzanne Senior. I'm the city's transit manager. And Transit is requesting the city council to approve the procurement of 2 intelligent transit software packages through the NASPO Procurement Cooperative. Just wanted to let you know what was in your agenda packet because we had 7 documents. There are 2 software quotes, one from each reseller that carries the products that we're looking for. You also have 2 supplementary condition documents, and those cover the Idaho procurement requirements as well as the FTA procurement requirements. And then lastly, there are 4 state of Idaho addendums to the NASPO contract, one for each reseller. That was at the time that the master contract for NASPO became available, and then an addendum to that, updating it specifically for the software packages we're looking at. I know that 7 documents were a little bit much, so I wanted to explain them. So the intelligent software is important to transit to address some of the growing needs of our agency and our community in terms of, for our agency, running more efficiently and doing more with less, as well as meeting the growing needs of our community in the regard that our community is aging, just like all of the communities are aging. We are finding we're getting more and more dial-a-ride applications. Our dial-a-ride service in terms of trips is up 22% just over this time last year, which is the highest we've had in many, many years. So with the software, both the on-demand and the fixed route software will be able to do more with less. We feel that we're putting in front of you one of the most cost-effective procurement approaches that we could get. We applied for funding for the software, and just to let you know, a capital purchase up front is an 80-20 match rate where we only have to put up 20% of the local match. By getting 3 years in, we are using a one-time capital upfront approach. If I were just to purchase 1 year's worth, years 2 and 3 would have to be a 50% match, because then that procurement it's no longer a procurement, it goes into operating. So that's why the 3 years up front, which I understand is probably a little abnormal for contracts that we put in front of you. So with the help of the purchasing department, we feel like this is a super cost-effective approach. This gives our riders on the Dial-A-Ride the ability to use an app to go ahead and schedule their own rides, cancel their own rides. We get the most calls, do I have a trip today? I know our seniors, a lot of our seniors right now don't have that capability with a smartphone app, but this is one of the most savvy aging populations in terms of technological savviness that there is. So we feel we'll be able to better serve our customers. One of the other things we have to do for Dial-A-Ride clients who can't see the bus from their front door, we often have the dispatchers call them 10 minutes before their ride gets there. We'll be able to automatically notify individuals of when their ride gets there. We also will be able to improve the algorithm that works for the scheduling software, so the dispatchers will have to do less manual work. And cancellation rides, instead of a dispatcher going into the schedule and trying to fix in the cancellation, what driver am I going to put it on? The AI will automatically do that to the most effective means possible. And then there's some things that our fixed route software does not do, even though we have requirements from the NTA, FTA, that will allow us to do that. Right now, our software can't do the Google feeds that's required to be up on the Google Maps. We kind of hodgepodge it together or have to require a third party to do that for us. We also don't have vehicle enunciators, and that's the equipment to automatically announce a stop on the fixed route. That's required by the FTA. We know that our drivers do their best to announce every single stop when they're on the fixed route, but I believe that sometimes it may not happen as regularly as the 100% that we're striving for. Also, too, we'll have improved advanced vehicle location where we'll know exactly where the vehicles are at any given time. Those are just some of the benefits of this software. So I want to stop right there and see if you have any questions.
Counselor Spickelmeyer.
Thank you. So, Susan, I noticed in here when you're looking at the budget impacts, it was $36,000 more than you budgeted in FY24.
Yes.
So in your original budget estimation, did you not plan on 3 years, or did the costs go higher?
Actually, this might be a little long-winded. When we first looked at the software, we were looking at a software package that was $600,000 plus. And we were going to split the costs between our agency and the PTBA, Asotin County Public Transit. That software package was all integrated. That's what they said, right? It's both fixed route and demand response, all put together, seamless, no problem. When we started investigating the software, we realized it was 3 different apps in front of the riders. So that didn't really seem like the integration we needed. And it was that pricing in which I asked for the funding through ITD, the grant funding. That was how we applied for it. So then we had the grant funding, and our relationship with Asotin County Public Transit is typically it's our dispatch contract. We buy the software, they reimburse us for half of it, and we provide the dispatch services. So at the time, we were looking at a much more expensive package, and we said that was crazy when we realized it really wasn't that integrated. What other solutions are out there? We obtained 2 other solutions that will meet our needs well at a less cost, and we still anticipate that Asotin County Public Transit will pay for half of the total cost. So we're putting the money up front, they reimburse us for half. This is part of our contractual arrangement with them.
Counselor Spickelmeyer.
And just to follow up with that, then, it says here with that, it'd be $36,000 from transit reserves, that's not from city reserves.
No, yes, they're transit reserve funds
Right.
for transit specifically. We talked to Amy Gordon, our treasurer, and she said that she felt that that was okay. It didn't jeopardize our reserve funding.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
It's a lot of paper for a motion, Mayor.
Counselor Lidke.
I'd move to utilize the state of Idaho's addenda to the NASPO Value Point contracts number AR 2488 and AR 2472 for the purchase of an intelligent transportation software package from SHI International Corp. and Carasoft Technology Corporation, and authorize the mayor to execute the associated agreements and staff to proceed with such purchases.
Second. It's been moved by Counselor Lidke, second by Counselor Spickelmeyer, to utilize the state of Idaho's addendums to the NASPO's Value Point contracts number AR 2488 and AR 2472 for the purchase of an intelligent transportation software package from SHI International Corp. and Carasoft Technology Corp. and authorize the mayor to execute the associated agreements and staff to proceed with such purchases. Is there further discussion? Clerk Brockie?
Council President Kleberg,
Aye.
Councilor Lidke,
Aye.
Councilor Spiegelmeier,
Aye.
Councilor Schroeder,
Aye.
Councilor Klein,
Aye.
Councilor Forsman.
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, councilors. Thank you, Suzanne. And if you haven't taken a ride on the bus lately, you should do
Good
that.
weather.
Yeah. Roman numeral 6, discussion items. Please note that identifying an item as an action item does not require the city council to vote on that item. Item A is joint dispatch requesting direction from the city council with regard to Consolidated Communications Center. This is an action item, and we have our chief police, Jason Cusick, with us today. Chief Cusick, welcome. If you'd please introduce yourself for the record, and remember to speak up loudly and clearly. The floor is yours. Thank you.
Jason Cusick, Lewiston Police Chief. Appreciate the council's time tonight, and as the gentleman mentioned, I'm hoping to get some final direction and clarification on the idea and the plan for the Consolidated Dispatch Center. I believe the plan was presented or formalized and presented good 18 months ago, so we're just kind of hoping for some closure overall moving forward. The two that spoke, the communication specialist during the public comment, spoke fairly eloquently about the kind of qualitative aspect to this. I'm going to kind of go over more of a qualitative aspect. I presented twice on this topic already. Councilor Klein, I think everyone's kind of had it, so I'm not going to bore you and weigh you down with all details, but I'll kind of give you an overview again, just to refresh everybody's memory, and I'll stand for questions if that works. So again, this plan is about a consolidated dispatch center for LPD in the county and primarily the tribal at the moment, plus other potential agencies. Mission Critical Partners was hired to conduct a study on how this process would occur and what the logistics would be involved. The plan is really just to consolidate the agencies for efficiencies and some other ideas per Mission Critical, but there really wasn't a true why this plan is necessary. I know there's some belief at the state level that they're going to start requiring it, but the inquiries I've made, there's really no weight behind that. There's no movement in the legislative level to start forcing consolidations on PSAPs. There is a tremendous amount of work that's going to be involved in this endeavor. And with that being said, and the idea of consolidations, I'm of the belief that both agencies have very well-managed professional dispatch centers with good employees as they operate today. There are pros and cons, though. I mean, to be honest with you, as the mayor spoke to earlier when you looked at the plan. But overall, I think for LPD and for the residents of Lewiston, I believe the cons kind of outweigh the pros, and that's why my position has been that I don't support this plan as the chief of police. A lot of our information we got is just we reach out to Whitcomb because they have a consolidated plan. I reached out to a couple leaders up in Kootenai and some interesting comments from them. But overall, we're working on the pros from Whitcomb because our closest neighbors are already doing it. The advantages right now, and it's kind of, some of it is relayed through the plan right now, is that it does connect a larger geographical area, because more than likely, this is not gonna include just Nez Perce County, this is probably gonna include other counties as well. But with that, it's easy to broadcast big updates to all the officers that involve major incidents. You have everyone in one room, so at least all the dispatchers are all together and the supervisors. When staffing allows, dispatchers can focus one dispatcher on, say, a high-stress call, say, if the fire's working a structure call or the police are working a critical incident. You could dedicate, if the manning permits, one dispatcher just to that call. I know they call it a pro as shared equipment and cost. I'm not really sure that's accurate. If you have 20 dispatchers, you need 20 consoles. Whether you have 10 here and 10 there, it's still 20 consoles and 20 dispatchers. So I'm not really sure there's a shared economic value there. All dispatchers are cross-trained for all areas, so every dispatcher knows every agency's processes. Knowing what's going on in the immediate region, and having administrative relationships. Now, some of the cons that we got from Whitcom is that staffing and staying fully staffed is a huge challenge for them, and I'll get into some of that in a little bit. Again, flipping the same concept, dispatchers have a huge geographic region to learn. They're not very intimately knowledgeable about one particular area. Training is about 6 to 7 months at Whitcom. Currently, LPD's is 30 weeks, so we've add about 2 to 3 months to training for every dispatcher. When the technology fails, it can affect many agencies in the entire geographic regions that's being covered. Agencies have their policies and desires, and basically it's the nuances within it that was spoken about earlier today. Some of that kind of goes away. User fees becomes a problem because that has to be established, and it's not going to be equitable across the board. The plan creates, in essence, really a bureaucracy, in my opinion, that you have to manage this facility. Establishes new representation and functional subcommittees, such as, like we learned from Whitcom, but it also is in the plan like that. You're gonna have subcommittees for law, subcommittees for fire, subcommittees for law, records, and basically fire EMS. So not only under the current model of the managing board, you'd have all these subcommittees that would then have to meet and talk about what's good for fire, what's good for police, what's good for record, and they all have to feed up to the board to make decisions. Our call volume is much higher than all the partner agencies right now. But with that, basically the LPD chief would have 1 vote out of 5 because the governing board is 5 votes. It would comprise the chief of police, the fire chief, the sheriff, 1 commissioner, and 1 counselor. Some of the unknowns that I think are prevalent is with that, we're probably the police department probably end up hiring potentially 1 to 2 more records because as was spoken about earlier, the dispatchers handle a lot of record responsibilities as well as their own dispatching responsibilities. So to cover that, 1 to 2 more records personnel would have to be hired full-time. Cost on a location is unknown. I can get into the cost overall if needed later. The handling of HR and payroll, all of these are unknowns that'll have to eventually get worked out through the onboarding process. But issues that could come into play and be important is pay, schedules, collective bargaining, if it's gonna be allowed or not, training, seniority, how all these merged dispatchers are gonna fall into a seniority position, policy procedure development, and the discipline model. So right now, currently LPD has 16 employees, we're allotted 16 positions in dispatch. Currently we have 4 vacancies, which is much better than we were 12 months ago. The county has between 10 and 11, I'm not 100% sure on their total number, but I think it's either 10 or 11, and I don't know their vacancy situation right now. The plan calls for 2 different models, either 30 to fully staff, which would be 24 dispatchers and 6 supervisors under a 12-hour model, or 32 to fully staff, which would be 26 and 6 under an 8-hour model. One thing that plan does talk about, and it's been talked about in other positions, is that the turnover rate. The plan actually calls for a loss of about 25%. So with that reduction, even though we are already walking into potentially with about 8 vacancies on the board, we potentially be walking into this kind of plan with roughly 12 vacancies. And we'd have to overcome that. I know pay is an issue, and there is some discussion that we may have to even up. The FOP just passed a new contract that raised the rates for our communication specialists, but they have to be talked to have to be even higher to maybe really start attracting more personnel. And even with that, would come starting pay is $28.33, and they're about 4 or 5 down. They can't get full personnel at that high pay rate. LPD starts at $22.84. And we top out at $29.85 currently. That's after 6 years on the job. So it would take you that long to even, probably 5 years just to match their pay. So, and again, with that, WITCOM cannot stay fully staffed. Funding is also one of my biggest concerns. It's not equitable, as I stated before. The approximate net cost to run the entire center would be about $2.4 million. And then when it comes down to pay, there's two models proposed. One of them is called a activity-based and one is a resource-based. Under a consolidated model, under a resource-based activity, to include basically LPD and the county, we would have to contribute a little under 1.8 million, which is several $100,000 more than our current budget for personnel. If we included multiple other agencies up to including Moscow, it would drop below that number by a couple $100,000, but I don't think Moscow is interested in this model, especially after I talked to the chief a week ago. So I don't think they're really in play for this at the time being. The other model, the numbers are basically the same. So just a little bit cheaper, but not by much. We're talking like tens of thousands of dollars, relatively speaking. The only thing that's nice about the second model, the first model, activity-based, is run off a per call incident on a number they determined to be $64.33. So you times that by the number. So there's no, the budget isn't solid per se. The second model, though, works on just straight contributions. It's a fixed amount, so that we could at least budget for consistently. And as spoke about earlier, I do believe it would affect LPD morale because there's no support in dispatch, and most officers I spoke to, actually all the officers I spoke to, not the entire department, but everyone I've talked to, doesn't like the idea of losing the dispatchers out of the building. So ultimately, really what it comes down to is, it comes down to me, I think we have three issues: finance, personnel, and really autonomy. And that's the last part I haven't spoken about yet. Losing the ability to have our own dispatch center within the building matters. Again, everything goes to a bureaucracy and it becomes an agenda item. And I'll give you an example. Like right now, one of the things I propose, and I've got the communication manager, one of my computer specialists working on, and it's just a matter of working on some under the hood items. But I want to install a non-emergency number. We have a 911 for emergency numbers, and I want to install what's called a 311 number, which is a non-emergency number. So a citizen was like, oh, I just see a car wreck. They call 311. They don't have to look up the actual police department physical number. Everybody just knows it's 311. I can do that. I did that with literally a phone call, and it's just starting to get work. My concern would be something changed like that, because we have to homogenize it for everybody. That would have to be a much longer process. If it's even allowed or adopted, I could get outvoted on something like that. So those are my concerns. But again, the finance is unknown and more than likely will cost us more money. I am concerned about the personnel and the morale involved with it, and then like I said, the autonomy of losing that and be able to just have this very specialized, unique service for Lewiston, for a center that has been here for decades and decades. So, I mean, at the end of the day, to me personally, as the chief of police, it just kind of feels like this is a solution in search of a problem. So, I stand for questions.
Counselors, questions? Should have lots of them. Councilor Spickmeyer.
I guess, first of all, is it, Chief, you wanted to bring this up and start talking about it again? I'm kind of
Yes.
lost to where we're at with that.
Correct, yeah.
So
Because
somebody's
I've had
pushing
two
you to-
presentations, and at the end of the day, I mean, this plan is here, and just out of fairness to the county too. They would definitely like some finality, whether they are gonna move forward with or without us, just so they have some closure as well. But definitely within the LPD building, everybody's very anxious to get some closure on this, so.
Councilor Lidke.
Chief, we keep talking about autonomy, how's this gonna look? And what I think my frustration is I'm going into 2.5 years, not a lot of meetings for emergency 911 board because we only meet quarterly, but in 2.5 years, and this started prior to the public health emergency, I've yet to hear that the dispatch supervisors, the chief, the sheriff, and anybody else that key players involved have sat down and said, could we make this work? What does that look like? And for me, that's where I'm, like, the buildings and where we put people and how we do it safely and how do we do we have experts that can do all of the high-tech stuff. That is the hard conversation I don't think has been had yet. And I don't wanna make a decision until I know it's happened. And I see your point, and I know that the county wants to move forward, but I think what happens in government especially is where we tend to talk about the hard conversations but never really have them. And I would like to see it happen. If they sit down and they can't come up with anything, there's our answer. And we don't have to weigh it out over here, because we're not the experts. We're here to support what's put in front of us and say, can we figure out and find the money to fund it? I can't write an organizational chart or chain of command for a consolidation of dispatch. But the two people that are in charge of it may be able to come to the table and say, this is what it is. It hurts my heart to hear that, you know, that we would separate a family of, between the LPD and the dispatch. I would love to feel like we could make that work. I'd also, you know, law enforcement is a family in general, and I would love to see a partnership that's visible to the public between the county and LPD. However, I'm very realistic in the fact that it just may not work, in the fact that that chain of command, who funds what, there is a big difference in how we pay and what kind of benefits and all those things. I see the roadblocks, but I've yet to hear that people have come to the table and had the conversations.
So I guess my question would be that, or my request would be, what exactly do you need to see? Because, and I'm looking for it right now, your request is basically 18 months down the road. And then I'm trying to look for the time frame in this plan, but is that about right? Between policy and policy making and budgets and building? Yeah, so that answer couldn't come to you for about 2 years.
Which, follow up,
Counselor Litt.
which maybe that's my whole issue, is because I think we're out of sync. Who's gonna, I mean, the people that write policies and procedures should be the ones that are the experts as well. I mean, the same people writing and doing that are the ones that are gonna tell us if it works or not. And so I think my whole issue is this plan is a guide, but it doesn't mean we follow it exactly how it said. And I remember that presentation and they said the same thing. They said, this is just like, we've seen it work this way. Well, if anybody's lived here for 40 plus years, we don't do it like everybody else. And so I guess that's like, why couldn't we have that conversation and then say, because we can't do any of these steps if we know it's never gonna work. So to put people in and waste time writing policies and procedures and all those things, to me, that's like cart before the horse, however you wanna look at it. So I guess I feel like the plan is out of step, because I feel like that conversation needs to be, or those conversations, not just one, but because I agree with you, there's a lot staring us in the face that we've gotta try to figure out. But I don't think we're the ones that can make that decision. We ultimately have to say, move forward. But we keep going back to this plan written by people from across the country. So I struggle with that part.
Counselor Claiborne?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This goes way back, almost 10 years now. The county decided to bring somebody in, a consultant, where they had actually pulled a plan together like this back in South Carolina. And they were successful at it, and he brought in his 2 cents worth and how they were able to make it work. This goes back 3 police chiefs ago. And we're at the same point as when we started this, literally probably 8 or 9 years ago. If you're not gonna get the total buy-in from everybody, we can just stop spinning our wheels. Continue as what we've been doing. I don't see we're getting any closer to a solution on that as far as consolidating everything and making everybody feel happy about it. Because it's a parochial type of deal and people have their own turf that they are in favor of, and I don't see it changing. I'm not willing to get in the middle of it. I've already been in the middle of it for several years. I agree with the chief. I see no wisdom in pursuing this any further, so.
Counselor Schroeder?
Thank you. I totally support your position. I think that you've made good examples as to why. And I feel that the bureaucracy, I mean, at first I was really into this. I thought it was a great deal. It sounded wonderful. But when you talk about having a top layer of bureaucracy, that does not make sense to me. You need to make decisions and sometimes immediately, and you should have that. If we've got to deal with this Oz up here, the great Oz, I don't think it's feasible at all, and I would hate to put that constraint on you, and I would hate to see our people divided. I don't wanna lose anyone. So I am totally in support of what, and we've been talking about this for a long time. Nobody said anything different, so I don't see any progress being made that would make me think any differently. Thank you.
Counselor Spickelmeyer?
Thank you, Mayor. And I agree the same, is that, I mean, if our front line doesn't support it, I can't support it. You know, when our police department comes to us with a request to support something, then I think we should have open ears. And then we could dig down to the costs and the impacts.
Counselor Klein?
I was wondering if I could actually ask Chief Reitmeyer how he felt about it, since they would be involved in it as well.
Ask him. Willing to stand for a question? He appears to be eager. Chief Reitmeyer, welcome. Please introduce yourself for the record.
Craig Reitmeyer, Fire Chief, Lewiston Fire Department. I appreciate the question. Chief Kuzik and I have talked about this a lot. You know, at the bottom of it is we're after supporting our citizens and serving them. And it comes down to what's most effective and efficient to process a 911 call quickly and effectively and get resources on the road responding to our citizens. And so for the problem that we face, because we serve both sides of the border here at the state, is EMS call processing for the other side of the river comes from Whitcomb. So would I love to see a consolidated dispatch for the valley? Yes. But my needs then run incongruous with what we're actually talking about here, because we don't respond to Latah County and Idaho County. And so from the fire side, we're going to be a customer. We don't own a dispatch center. We're going to be a customer of somebody. And so we support our police department. They're who's serving us right now, and we have to take into account what they believe is the best thing to be able to serve us right now. So maybe we can get a Soton County to subscribe to Lewiston dispatch, and then that would help solve that issue.
If I'm just processing too, I presume, and I'm looking at Bill Reynolds, fair or not, but the Joint Powers Board's been in place for a long time. And if we don't have a joint dispatch center, then does that, I mean, that was a product of the board. Does the board go away, or do we keep the board in perpetuity because we've established that enhanced fee? You know, and if we don't disestablish that board, then what do we keep doing? So.
I don't know if she's wanting to say something.
Counselor Forsman?
Yeah, I was just letting everybody kind of get their word in. I have to kind of echo Counselor Licky's concerns about just the people that come to the table and talk about this. I mean, whether that be in Soton County coming in too, and all of our surrounding support groups talking whether this is really going to help the valley. I appreciate Kuzik that you went through all this, and you really did your due diligence. So I really appreciate that, especially coming in new and wanting to make sure this is best for those involved and asking your staff. I appreciate the staff came in and expressed their concerns. So until that big conversation happens, I would agree that there's just no point to continue this, because it's to me, it seems like there's the cons, like as you said, the cons outweigh the pros. We have other things, a lot of things that we're trying to put money towards, and I'm just not sure that this is really our main focus and whether it's worth our time to be putting our eggs in this basket at the moment. And so I'm not really in support of it yet until I really see the pros and the benefit behind it, and I'm not seeing it.
Counselors, I just throw that out to you, just for information. So I think I forwarded you minutes from last March, maybe, a copy of resolution 2004-11, which approved a joint powers agreement between the city of Lewiston and Nez Perce County. And then also the results of the vote 1998 to consolidate, if I enhance fee, if I'm getting my dates and numbers right. I sent all that to you at one time in an email format. So when this was voted upon in 1998, it was more than 3-1 to establish this enhanced fee, and it was another 4 years or so later when a resolution was passed adopting a joint powers agreement. So I would challenge you at some point, if you don't want to vote or take action on something today, but at some point I would challenge you to maybe reevaluate your position or your membership in the joint powers agreement also. I don't think we have the numbers to dissolve that, but certainly you could make your statement to that board about continuing that, and the county certainly has representation on that too, but it's not just whether or not to consolidate. There's other things that are involved in this decision that I think we probably should consider so that we can provide some direction to everybody involved. So I just throw that out as an FYI.
But, sir, from my perspective, I'm not entirely sure the Joint Power Board ever needs to go away regardless which direction we go, because really they just kind of set overall policies and discuss a lot of fiscal aspects of it. So I'm not entirely sure the plan even requests the dissolution of the Joint Powers Board. I'm reading it correctly, right?
If the city and the county were to consolidate, they would.
Bill, could you stand up? Do you mind coming up and just introduce yourself for the record, because we have to have that or I'm going to get in trouble.
Bill Reynolds, Nez Perce County, I'm on the Joint Powers Board. Yeah, the plan would not necessarily dissolve anything, it would reform it under a new format. Like the chief was saying, with different representation, it would be more towards operations and funding of the system. But the joint powers, the current joint powers agreement, it's basically a kind of a fiscal responsibility there on how that dollar fee is spent for our systems.
So that would include things other than a consolidated dispatch center.
It would be whatever would support the I guess the direction that the agencies chose to go, that we'd have to support. I think there would be some hard discussions sometimes when we get to the expenses of some softwares and hardwares that are kind of skyrocketing right now, but those are things that operations managers and the 911 board would be working through just to alleviate whatever those expenses are.
So, Bill, if I can just read, this is a discussion I don't know, but unless this has been amended, the joint powers agreement for Nez Perce County, City of Lewiston, countywide consolidated emergency communication system pursuant to the Emergency Communications Act. This was entered into 26th of January 2004, but it says here use of communication fees pursuant to Idaho Code 31-48041. The emergency communication fees shall be used exclusively to finance the initiation, maintenance, operation enhancements, and governance of the system, and provide for the reimbursement of telecommunications providers for implementing enhanced consolidated emergency systems. So is that consistent still?
Yes, that is.
Okay.
There's been some changes through the FCC to allow other expenses, but the state code has not changed.
Thank you, Bill. And thank you, Chief. Counselors, do you want to take action you can, or we can move on to the next item? Action is not required, but I know there's been a lot of interest. You heard from some of our dispatchers today. They're seeking closure on this so that they can other plans. So Counselor Schroeder?
Is it possible that we could, stop at the, I mean, not move any further on this and say it's tabled for now until they, if and when they would ever bring anything back to us? Is that a possibility?
Well, Counselor, as I understand it, you don't have to take action today, but I know that I hear from employees, city employees, and I think from those involved with the E911 effort that are asking questions sometimes and trying to get some resolution on some things. So I'm just trying to respond to some questions that I've had over the last few months, last 3 to 6 months.
Mayor,
Counselor Forsman?
I'm sorry if I missed that. I was trying to hear as best as possible. Why is it difficult for them he mentioned getting together with kind of those in kind of the head of those involved, and it would take up to 2 years. What is the reason for that timeline?
Well, I don't know. I don't think that was my response, but I'm looking around the room here, maybe Counselor Lickey or
Cusick, I believe, said that it would be, I saw him walk away and I was like, oh darn. Something around 2 years. I was trying to make sense of that, so it was a little hard to hear, but.
Chief Cusick is coming back, Counselor.
Okay, thank you.
That's the timeline for Mission Critical Partners. They've broken down every aspect from construction, policy formation, HR, finance, every aspect has a timeline. And Councilor Lickey asked for a lot, and basically how do all these things factor into it? So that's in essence to create who's gonna make the decision makers to begin with. That has to kind of be just figured out. Then the hierarchy has to be developed, and then from there, all these branches of the consolidated plan that have to start be working on. For the policy, that'd be to start telling you exactly what the hard cost to build or rent a facility, what's the hard cost of the equipment, what's the hard cost of personnel, how many personnel, on and on and on. That's gonna take a long time. And that way, to have a truly informed decision, what is it gonna cost the county, the city, or any other agencies, what's their piece of the pie, for, lack of a better term, is gonna take a lot of time.
And Counselor Forsman, I forwarded that study to all the counselors. It was today or yesterday, today's Monday, but I was here on the weekend, so whenever it was. The Mission Critical Partners study, so you should have a copy of that in your inbox. And in the back of that study, there is a Gantt chart, if you will, of events or timing of things that implementation and steps that would need to happen if you need to look at that. So I think that's what Chief's referring to.
Yes, sir, yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I have that here.
Counselor, should we move on to the next item?
I'm in favor of moving on to the next item.
Okay. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you,
It's everyone's
Chief.
time.
Thank you.
Okay, next up, we have strategic plan update. Counselors, we sent a copy of this to you. I hope that you received it, or Tanya, I guess, handed out today. But as you know, last year we brought the strategic plan to you, and this was a plan that was initiated back in 2019. And last year we completed a kind of an update to that, put a bow on it, and published this for you. And this year we're also bringing you the final report, performance report we called it, for the strategic plan fiscal year 23. And it's really kind of a end of the 5-year planning effort, and that plan that we'd identified some goals in there and objective strategies to achieve those objectives. And this report is meant to give you some progress of those actions that were taken, and also if you go to the strategic plan, which you have access to, it also identifies where some of the budget priorities have been over the last few years and where they are currently and where we hope to go in the next year. Not everything in there is going to be funded. We don't have enough monies for that, but it creates a roadmap for the planning effort that we've had. So I don't know if you had I think one copy was sent out previously. If you've had a chance to review this or not, if you have questions or not, if you would like to make a motion to approve it or adopt it, this is where your city is at right now in terms of performance in that strategy and some of the things that we'll be working on during this coming budget year. You certainly always have the prerogative to change the priorities for the city, but this kind of gives you a good report card of where things have been at. So I think it's a pretty good summation. It doesn't include everything. There's several items within each department, but we just tried to capture some of them in here. So,
Mr. Mayor, just for clarification, this covers the progress of 5 years, correct? Not just in the last year when we adopted it and brought it forward.
this really is kind of a one-year report, because last year we brought you the report itself, and in there was a chart in the back, and so it showed objectives that they had, goals, and whether or not they were completed, whether they were in works, whether there were some disruptions in that process, and what some of the reasons might have been, whether we changed course, whether we didn't have funding, or maybe the priorities changed. So we have that plan is out there available on our website that's been updated for this year, and so it kind of updates from last year what we've accomplished over this last year. Then it kind of sets a roadmap for the next year. Then what we'll do as a city is we'll, like all planning, we'll start that over again and put together another 5-year plan on where the city's going to be headed. Council has every opportunity to provide input, and it's no different than our transportation improvement plans or some of our other capital improvement plans, where council has an opportunity to review those plans and, provide their input on that. And if there's something they want to do differently, then, they can provide that input to staff.
Follow-up question or
Counselor?
comment, I guess. And I did read through it. And I think that it's headed in the right direction. I did feel like more numbers with a strategic plan when you have measurable goals is just, as somebody that reads a lot of strategic plans and has been a part of writing a couple. But for instance, like on page 24, the strategy to promote reuse of vacant commercial and industrial buildings and land. The comment is, staff have been actively engaged with property owners to explore potential grants and funding opportunities with ongoing efforts to sustain these dialogues. And just a little more in-depth information. Have we been successful in any of those endeavors? Are there some that are in the process? Things like that, to where we can actually really gauge where we're at. And because we know the efforts are gonna be ongoing, but are those efforts working, or are we just continuing dialogue? Things like that, again, to Councilor Kleberg's comment about 10 years in the making, I think that some of the frustrations that our constituents have are, they wanna see what we're doing. They wanna be able to measure it. They wanna be able to see that the tax dollars they're sending to the city are making change, and it's hard to see that currently. And so just in these documents, as I see those kind of statements, I'd like to just see a little more detail.
Okay, that's fair criticism, Counselor. I would direct you to the website, and there's department reports out there, and the full strategic plan is there, and it gives you goals and objectives, missed opportunities, and all those kind of things. But those metrics are in there, including what we accomplished and didn't accomplish. Further questions, comments? Okay, if not, we'll move on to item C, Burt Lips repair, update and discussion regarding the current status of Burt Lips pool. This is an action item. Councilor Spickelmeyer, you're the lead on this.
Okay, it came to my attention, I had some people ask me about the Burt Lips swimming pool, since it was out of service all of last year. And then I've reached out to Director Barker, asked him a few questions. He did provide us with a follow-up on it. I think all the counselors received it. I don't know if Valerie, if you wanted to kind of go over that real quick, and thank you.
Good evening, everyone. Valerie Warren, Facility Supervisor, Parks and Rec. Tim did a good job summarizing where the pool is at. What happened last year is we noticed a large water loss happening. When we investigated it, we found several issues. Cracks in the concrete. After we inspected plumbing, we found it was leaking as well. Some ground radar showed us that the volume of the water loss over the years has caused some voids underneath the pool deck and the pool itself. We did have the structural integrity checked by a geological engineer, just to make sure nothing real dangerous happened to the land, and he said no, it was safe because we sit on, I don't know if it was basalt, we sit on very solid rocks. And right where the pool is, it's safe, but there's a void there, so we would have to fill that. So we went to the local pool companies, and they said it was above their abilities. They would suggest demoing it. The reason they said that is because the leaking was happening due to many, many years. This is original concrete, so it's very old. Is that 70 years, I think? Or about there. And it's normal for concrete to crack. But after you've repaired it for that many years in a row, it comes to a point where you can't just repair it anymore. And so they all said, well, you have to cut it out, pieces out, but we're not sure that would hold, and patch it in. You'd be better off just demoing the whole thing. And then when we learned there were voids under the pool deck as well, and the plumbing there needed replaced, everybody, the general consensus was you're probably gonna have to demo it and start over. So it's kind of sat waiting for decisions to be made on what you want to do. The kiddie pool is still good and safe. The plumbing to that is good. It's run different and was redone years ago. So that one's okay. You could use that one to rerun. It actually has the filter in it, which is great. So you could rerun water back through a new system with that. So you don't have to redo the pumps, the chemical systems, none of that. You don't have to redo it because it runs through the kiddie pool anyway, or we could route it mostly that way. So you could redo whatever you want to do with that infrastructure still there. It is a land and water conservation site, I'm told. I don't know much about it. Tim Barker knows more. When I asked him, he did say that you could transfer that right to another property, but I would ask that you ask him what the details mean on a transfer like that. Questions?
I think he's gonna meet with folks this week, right, at the IRPA here in Lewiston, talk about the LWCF and any other uses that might be allowed on that piece of property. So right now, there's a lot of unknowns, but Counselor, if you had a specific concern with that pool or anything else about its operation that you'd like to bring up for the rest of the council's consideration.
I guess my biggest concern is that the strategic location of that pool. There's been talk about consolidating pools and putting one larger pool up at the new community park area, but having the pool in that area where you have all the downtown kids, you have the Normal Hill kids, moving it someplace else is gonna be, it'd be really sad. And I think no matter what I know it's gonna cost a lot, but I think we should push to try to get it rebuilt, see what the cost is, hopefully get something in time that we can put it into our 2025 budget, even if it's just a bookmark, to get something started. To me, it's too important of a pool to do away with.
So,
Can I add
Counselor-
one more fact, something I forgot to tell you? The pool house in itself also needs quite a few repairs, so it's not just the pool itself, it needs a new roof, it needs some plumbing redone, basic things, some paint and concrete sealer, and the pool house itself.
Mayor,
Counselor Lidkey?
we talk about this when we did facilities, specifically. I could not remember the list that came with that.
I don't think it was on there.
It was not on the list, that might have actually happened after.
I just want to second Counselor Spickelmeyer that, I actually had conversations with Melinda and Director Barker about the grant we just received or are going to be receiving for Pioneer Park. And my suggestion was to use that money towards this pool, and was told that it does not meet the HUD requirements as far as low and to moderate income. And I would just propose that we do some research to see, because to give, it seems like everything that we're attached to as far as recreation and parks is somehow connected to the Land and Water Conservation Fund, and we're very limited, but there has to be some ways that we can navigate this. Because putting everything in one spot is not the definition of accessibility. And I will say that I would not support not at least trying to have something for the kids down here that cannot get on a bus, cannot make it to clear up to, and as a parent, I don't know that I'd send my kid up that far away when I can be as close to a pool as a lot of these folks are. So I would like to see some more research done, that we take care of what's ours instead of building new or propose new, because again, I see a 10-year can being kicked down the road.
Now, Counselors, I guess what I would say is, and forgive me for saying this, but, if that's what the council wants, then the council should be talking to each other and saying, this is what we want to do, and set the direction. Don't talk to staff and tell them to research it and do things. Tell them what you want. This is what we're going to provide as a city with the funds we have available. And then the staff will make it happen. But if we just kind of talk about it in terms of, and water conservation funds or other things like that, I don't know that we're going to move ahead. So, and that's in part what this strategic plan is supposed to do, and I think it does. But Councilor Spickelmeyer, I'm kind of looking at you, and I know you feel strongly about this, and I agree with many of the points that you're raising. But I would be very firm and look at your fellow council members and encourage them to act on this and move on this. And then once the order is given, then staff will make it happen.
So I guess the question, would it be realistic to ask for a rough cost estimate by our FY25 budget talks?
I could get a wide educated quote, but not an official quote, and probably in that timeline, because of the cost that would be involved would require the formal process. 3 to 4 months.
If you'd like staff to get that, we'll get one for you.
Can work on it though.
You have a question? Counselor Schroeder?
I'm also very supportive of keeping that pool if that's at all possible, again, realistically. I mean, that's the pool I grew up in. We live clear out in Tammany in the orchards, and my folks would bring me down to have swimming lessons because we have 2 rivers right here. I think it's essential for children to have access to water, to learn about it. So I'm very supportive of having it here if it's realistic, at least somewhere, even if it's not there, but that's a beautiful place for it. So I'm supportive of you moving forward to getting something done with it.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, well,
I would move that we direct staff to bring back detailed reports as best as they can after Director Parker's meeting with Land and Water Conservation. We'd like some price estimates. We need to know if we can make this happen.
And I,
Been moved by Counselor Lickey, second by Counselor Spicklemeyer, to have staff prepare a, I'm just gonna call it a repair/feasibility report to replace the Burt Lips pool, including a schedule of costs and time to completion. Sound reasonable? Okay. Is there further discussion? Counselor Forsman, did you have something?
I'm in support, just like like those that have already spoken. I think that's important that we keep this pool if we can and getting the study behind it. I know that I've already had citizens asking me, what do you guys plan to do about that? We have kids that use that pool. So I know that our citizens here in Lewiston really feel strongly about keeping that. So I would agree with the motion and I'm in support.
Thank you, Counselor. Is there further discussion? If not, those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Thank you. You can relay that motion to Director Barker. For us? Okay. Thank you.
okay,
you,
I'll
Valerie.
ask a question later.
Thank you, Councilors. Next, we moved on, finish a new business, Roman number 7A, City Councilor comments. Councilor Forsman?
Yep, I just want to apologize. I was not able to be there in person. I don't like being in Zoom. It's a pain. But my daughter got a 102 temperature right as I was leaving to come to the meeting. And so I gave me no time to find someone to take her. So just stay in a home with sick kid.
Good, and you're wearing your seatbelt. Chief Cusick is proud of you.
Yes, I'm wearing my seatbelt.
All right.
I'm also parked. I'm not driving. Just so you know.
You're still going places, Counselor. Counselor Spicklemeyer.
I'd just like to see they did a very nice job on Brighton Canyon cleaning it up. I heard it was the red shirts that did it, and whoever initiated that, I want to thank them. It looks great.
Thank you, Counselor. Counselor Kleberg?
Just one last comment before I put this subject to rest, but the Joint Dispatch Center and the associated discussion, I just want to remind everybody in the room who is paying attention, that goes back 3 police chiefs. Not a single one of them was in favor of it. So that's something to be thought about when people start making up their minds.
Thank you, Counselor. We'll skip over boards and commission unless there's something burning somebody wants to share. Counselor
I
Schroeder?
came prepared this time. I didn't have to work on my
City
memory.
boards and commission
So see?
liaison updates.
Okay.
Counselor Schroeder?
Public Works, even though we didn't have a meeting, this is something that I wanted to bring forth, that we have Public Works Day, May 23. It'd be 9 to 2 at the fairgrounds. It is so much fun. The kids need to bring their grandpa with them because it's really that much fun. But no, it's something you need to put on the calendar, go to. It's just amazing, so.
Thank you, Counselor. It will be a fun day. I missed it last year.
That's,
Counselor Clinton?
it's good.
Yeah.
May 23rd, 9 to 2 at the fairgrounds.
Okay, next we'll jump ahead to mayor comments. The only thing I'll share with you is that tomorrow night, April 2nd, at the, is it the Legion Hall on Warner, right there by Ziggy's?
Mhm.
At 6 o'clock is, there's gonna be a watch party for the USS Idaho. That was christened a couple Saturdays ago, but this is the local watch party. And I'll be there along with a lot of our veteran friends. But if you're interested, we're gonna replay the Idaho Public Television christening event. And there'll be some stickers and stuff like that for the USS Idaho. But it's open to the public if you're interested.
And that was what date and time again?
Tomorrow night,
Oh,
April 2nd,
that's right.
6 o'clock.
Mayor,
Counselor Forsman?
sorry, I know it's past my window of speaking. I just wanted to real quickly, with Counselor Schroeder's Public Works Day, to encourage parents out there to, if their schools in Lewiston not participating, to ask why and to get them to participate. I was surprised by the amount of schools in Lewiston that are not actually going. I think it's important they go. I'm going to be reaching out to my son's school and asking why they're not participating. And so I just encourage them to be advocates for their kids and ask why they're not participating in this wonderful opportunity.
Thank you, Counselor. You're not driving, are you? Talking on the phone?
I'm not driving. I'm in the parking lot.
Chief Cusick's watching, so thank you.
I see. I'm sure he is like a hawk.
He's on the radio now, hurry. All right. Agenda topics, counselors. Any agenda topics? Okay. All righty, Roman numeral 8, executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated. And I think, Counselor Forsman, are you going to participate by phone?
I'm going to do my best, yes.
Okay, counselors, I would entertain a motion to go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated.
Second.
Okay, was there a motion, move on that?
So moved.
Counselor Licky, move.
Can I actually have you read out the full motion on the statutory basis, please?
He just did.
Thank you.
I would move to go into executive session pursuant to Idaho Code 74-2061F to communicate with legal counsel for the public agency to discuss the legal ramifications of and legal options for pending litigation or controversies not yet being litigated but imminently likely to be litigated.
Second.
Moved by Counselor Licky, second by Counselor Forsman. Okay, Clerk Rocky?
Council President Kleberg,
Aye.
Councilor Lidkey,
Aye.
Councilor Spiegelmeier,
Aye.
Councilor Schroeder. Aye. Councilor Klein,
Aye.
Councilor Forsman.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. Also, we've got Aaron in the back, so he's going to be our invited guest for today. Aaron, if you can hear us. This is a confidential meeting, so you are asked to keep things confidential, and I presume this is not being
Second.
It's been moved by Counselor Kleber, second by Counselor Lickey to adjourn. Those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed, same sign, motion carries. We are adjourned.